All right. It's Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We've got a fun conversation today. This is, if anyone's on lunch, like feel free to relax and be yourself. We cannot see you guys on camera. So, yeah, whatever goes. If you're wearing pajama pants, that's awesome too. I want to do quick introductions, and then I just kind of want to dive into the meat and potatoes of what this is meant to be, which is uh, mostly just hearing Christina's story and talking about where she's been, how she got there, what's changed, what she's up to now, how those kind of transitions came about and how she feels about them. And my name is Jay Townsend. I live in Indianapolis, what I consider the center and the mecca of college sports. I used to coach college basketball a little bit, not well, but coached, and I spent a career in software and consulting, and now I'm blessed to be the co-founder and CEO of a growing company called Motion Sports, and we do technology for athletic departments. We focus on communication, scheduling, compliance, academics, money movement, and we've got a great team. Nate's helping coordinate this. We've got folks from the East Coast all the way out to Colorado Springs, Iowa, and Lubbock, Texas. So cover a lot of the country. Christina and I originally met actually through Motion and when Christina was at Northern Kentucky. So we met as business colleagues looking at Motion as technology for NKU. I'm good at showing up random places, and Christina couldn't shake me. So I think we started to form a friendship as the months went on, and now I'm blessed to be a coworker with Christina and excited to share her story today. So we'll take as little or as long as we need to. I just want you guys to hear Christina's story. So, Christina, let's start with just you've been in college athletics, I think 25 years plus. But and I know a lot of the folks on here know Christina, but maybe we'll uncover something that they didn't know about you prior. Start by just telling us your story, like go as far back as you want to, and how you got into this, what different roles you've had, what thoughts and decisions you made along the way that were good ones, bad ones, and we'll kind of go from there. But what's the Christina story?
Yep. All right. Well, it started my very first day as a freshman at St. Mary's College in the Bay Area. And I was a student looking for employment and happened to walk into the athletics department. They hired me that day, and college athletics have not been able to shake me since. So that day, I started working in the athletics department and ended up changing my major, pursuing a career in college athletics. Left the Bay Area, went home. Home was Fresno, California. Worked at Fresno State, went to grad school a couple times there. Worked at Fresno State, started out in sales, started out tickets and hospitality sales, made my way up at some point along along my road. The SWA worked with me on a National Girls and Women in Sports Day event and really liked me and said, I need somebody to know Title IX and everything there is to know about Title IX before I retire. So she took me under her wing, and fortunately, because of that, my career just continued to progress. And I got to kind of a senior leadership position at Fresno State, but was looking for my next stop. And a friend of mine said that Northern Iowa was going to be looking for an SWA and made that move. So here I go from West Coast to the Midwest, and I made Iowa my home, Northern Iowa my home for the next 6 years. I oversaw, many sports, all of our women's programs, some of our men's programs. And so I thought, what the heck, I could take on a few more programs. And so I thought I was ready for the chair, and let's move on over to Northern Kentucky. So I moved there, and last few years have been fast-paced, both higher education as well as college athletics. And so I think at every stage in my career, it's always been about the next step, where we're going. We make it through all the successes, all the challenges, and we keep making it through. And I just kept climbing the ladder, and I've had amazing opportunities to learn from great organizations, great athletic directors, have had tremendous colleagues. I've been really, really fortunate. It just, the last few years, a lot of things have changed, and there's still a lot of movement, a lot of things happening. And got to a point that I was looking for something else. And, Jay and I kept running into each other. And so we had already, we had already looked at motion and already decided we were going to sign on. But then all of a sudden I kept running into you, and it just kind of worked out. I think you asked me, "Hey, what's your story?" And I, said, "I'm looking for something creative," and it just kind of morphed from there. So that's been my experience. But thank you for everybody that's on. I know I have probably worked with many of you, but for those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to connect with, feel free to
I
reach
want to
out
go
at
back
any
to a
point.
couple
I'd be
things at the
happy to
beginning of your
connect.
story. Like, so you were not a student athlete at St. Mary's, but yet you walked into the athletic department and said, "Give me a job." Like, what? Why? Like, was it something that always interested you, but you didn't participate in
Yeah.
college? Like, what's the genesis of just walking in there?
Actually, I walked in
Did you
because I
find
was looking
it?
for the pool. So I was looking for the pool, and I was looking for the pool. I didn't know if they needed lifeguards or if they needed anything, but I was looking for the pool, and I walked into a double wide or triple wide trailer, which happened to be the athletic department headquarters. And I just walked in. I didn't know where I was walking. I walked in asking for the pool, and then all of a sudden I get a job.
At what
So
point
it
did
worked out
pool
really well.
hunting turn into I don't know, like I see a career in this. So, I'm kind of curious of when in your journey did you decide
Yeah.
that you kind of had your eyes set on maybe being an athletic director someday? And was there that much planning in it, or did these roles just
Yeah.
kind of keep coming?
Yeah. So I was a science major. I thought I was going to be a physician. And I was taking all the science courses. Math was not a problem, but the science courses were not my forte. And at some point, I decided, you know what, I really enjoy working in college athletics, and I really hate organic chemistry. And I cannot keep doing this. So I was just enjoying it. I was having too much fun in the athletics department, doing a variety of different things, and just decided, okay, I'm switching my major. This is something I really enjoy. It's fun. It's exciting. It's people love hearing that you work in college athletics because it seems so fun. And um, so that's where I decided to switch my major, and I never looked back. College athletics had always been my thing. It wasn't about pro athletics. It wasn't anything else. I was focused on college athletics. When I jumped into my first role at Fresno State, I was really set on a sales position. I thought that was the direction of my career. I was going to head that way. I could potentially see, working in MMR, sales, sponsorship, Learfield type work. But somebody else saw something different, right? And so I had people just giving me other opportunities, and I kept saying yes to them every time a position opened up or every time something else happened. I worked myself out of a job in sales. It was outbound sales, and I really enjoyed it and loved what I was doing. But I also said, I realize I don't have enough time to dedicate to that now that you've asked me to do X, Y, and Z. And I think we should outsource it. And so they said, run with it. You work with procurement and go ahead and go out there and see about getting an outbound sales effort. So I had those opportunities come, and with them, they also opened other doors and let me maneuver my way. I don't think I saw becoming an athletics director as the potential job until I was in my role at the University of Northern Iowa. Working for David Harris was an incredible experience, very thoughtful leader, very strategic. Has been an incredible mentor. And so it wasn't until watching him in the chair did I think, okay, I could do that. I could do that. I could see that being the next step. And then I went for it.
I've got a
So, and it
personal
was a
question.
great
You don't have to
opportunity.
answer it. You can just do this to me if you want me to shoe on. At one point in my career, I went from a finance job to coaching NAIA basketball for $2,000 a year in a meal plan, which is a high paid coaching position in NAIA basketball. I Any family pushback with the desire to go from being a physician to accidentally walking into the pool and all of a sudden working in college athletics?
Oh my gosh, huge pushback, huge pushback. So very traditional. I come from a very traditional Hispanic Latino household, and as a first gen college student, I think my parents they were very supportive, but I think my father in particular only saw certain career paths as actually being the career, right? And so to say college athletics, mm, a little bit frowned upon. Like how in the world do you make a career out of that? Sports is fun, not an actual job. Yeah, definitely got some pushback there, but I knew it was the direction for me. So I knew that that's where I was going. And I think my mom knows that I'm stubborn enough that
It's
I was going to
happening
make
whether
it
you
work.
like it or not.
So it was going to happen.
Thanks for sharing that.
Right. Right.
I want to I want to now go to the point in time leading up to going to Northern Kentucky and the AD role. So you mentioned, I think it was David Harris, who you saw something where you were like, all right, I can go do that. And what were you seeing? And then based off your skill set, your personality, your experience, your talents, where you were like, I want to go find a school where I can go do this. And like, this is the change, or this is the improvement, or this is the culture I think I can go set. Like, when you were getting ready to go into that chair, what was kind of the Christina vision and the excitement around you going in there for the first time?
Yeah. David, what I saw in David was someone that was very thoughtful, who can reflect on things and he makes sure to take time to reflect on things and set some long range plans. That's what I saw in him, and I thought that's the that's the type of person I am too. I like to think through things and plan something out in a long range plan, and then how do we get there? How do we make the steps to get there? At Northern Kentucky University, that was part of it too. I mean, I went through a search process, and there was goals that the institution was looking to move forward. Still relatively young in Division One, but looking for what's that next step. And so, I think that's what they definitely saw in me as somebody that had a long range plan where we could be headed. But just like many other institutions, financial crunch happens, and you pivot and you have to change directions. And at the same time, all of college athletics is changing from a variety of different directions as well. So I think a long range plan, that's the individual that I am. Creativity, where are we trying to get to, and then what are the steps that we take to get there. It just for variety of reasons,
Yeah, I
financial
want to
reasons, we had to take
dive
a
deeper on
pivot
that
and go
because
in
I
a
know that's
different
some of the
direction.
meat and potatoes of this conversation. But I think you and I have talked about it as kind of waves coming and hitting, but with no sequence or pattern to really identify and to stick with the California girl and you like to surf and ride a wave and figure out how to make it better. And so talk to us about like financial pressure. Like what did that mean? Changes going on within the NCAA, like stripping some of the opportunity to think creatively around problem solving to feeling more of like, oh crap, like I got to figure out what this means tomorrow and how do we get this ready for the next 7 days. What were some of those tangible examples of waves rolling in that
Mhm.
started to compound?
Yeah. Yeah. I think about different stages in my career, and when there's been monumentous things happening, we rode those waves out. So, there would be conference realignment, right? That happens for a while there, it was happening every few years. You can expect it. It's coming. It's a wave that's coming. You ride it out. It affects and it may impact and change things, and you ride it out. some financial issues at your institution, and you write it out. Some major law, legislative issues or lawsuits. We were. I remember having this conversation with my athletic director at the time of O'Bannon. Right, we just ride out the wave and we adapt and we pivot but we ride out this wave, and they are did feel a little bit sequential. Now they don't feel sequential. Now it feels like it's coming at you from every angle. So like in that surfer metaphor, I mean, it's trying to maintain balance when you have pressure coming from every direction. And the pressure coming from every direction is just because things are changing so rapidly, and it's become about sustaining uncertainty. It's uncertainty, and we've just been kind of living through it. And so that was kind of where we were going on the metaphor piece. It was just a lot of pressures. I think in higher education, we've been talking about the enrollment cliff. Has been, this request to reduce the subsidy that the universities supply the athletics department with, right? So how do you become more self-sustaining? And then on the flip side, we have all the athletics components of it, right? In terms of NIL and rev share and a variety of other pieces. So that the pressure feels like you're kind of being squeezed. Stay competitive, but at the same time, your resources might be a little bit less. And so it does at that point start to feel like it's really impacting your creativity. I think that's where you and I had this conversation about, you're worried, or I was worried, and so focused on the day to day that I didn't have that time to be reflective and be creative about where we were headed long term.
I'm trying to think, like, with all those pieces coming in, did it feel gradual in your chair of like, okay, this is going on, we're going to ride that wave, and then you look up and you're like, oh crap, there's another one? Or did it kind of feel more sudden, where all of a sudden you were just looking around and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so different?
Yeah. I think I woke up and realized that it had been coming gradually, and I hadn't kept up on that. Like I saw things coming, but I didn't realize how quickly they were all going to hit at the same time. Right? Like we've been talking about the enrollment cliff for a while, right? It's been there. All the different cases that we could see that some NIL was coming, right? There was going to be some change. There was going to be some transformation for sure coming. I think it was more of a, wow, all of a sudden it's all here all at the same time.
This is a little insight into like the Townsend family Christmas, Christina, but when someone finds out you work in college sports, they're like, oh man, like people are making a lot of money now, like pretty lucrative, right? And it's like, not the schools we work with. Like it's debating on, can we go get new jerseys? How are we going to get to the postseason tournament? Does the public perception of college athletics now being this, which I would say is incorrect for the majority, of like soaked in cash and everyone's flush with it now, like, does that weigh on someone in your chair where that's not the case for the majority of the institutions? And even for the institutions that is the case for, there's still plenty of programs within those institutions that don't feel that. And like, I kind of feel like you talk to most of the public who are the ESPN watchers, it feels different than what you guys live. And I'm wondering if you felt that in the chair, or are you insulated enough in your environment and culture that doesn't really come in?
No, you feel it. You feel it. I get the questions too, right? Or, the family conversations or just other conversations. I think people do think there's more money to be had or more money to be shared amongst the members. But that's not reality. So I think sitting in the chair, it's, some of those things where you don't want to necessarily admit that you can't do certain things, right? You don't want to admit that you want to be happy about being very competitive and you're doing the best you can with the resources you have. There's this part where you you want to talk about your needs in a way in which to get some donor support and everything, but you don't always want to tell them all that's happening and stuff. You don't want a pity party, right? So there's a little bit of trying to make sure that it's all balanced, keeping it a positive, forward facing. I think that's quite a bit of it. But yeah, there's quite a bit of misperception, and there's many of us, many institutions that all have the same challenges, but the pressure to
Yeah,
try
most of our
to
folks on the
maintain
call are
some
probably in that
competitiveness.
range. How did you think about your culture at NKU of, yeah, you were feeling it, but we still work with your team and I know they're feeling it too. How did you try to continue to operate a high performing team when that's the overwhelming feeling?
Yeah, I think transparency, trying to be very transparent and very honest about what's happening. And I think you and I have had conversations about communication, right? And what that communication looks like at the unit level or the sport level versus in the AD chair with the executive level. And trying to be very honest and transparent and having those communications, trickling out communication to those individuals so they know how it's impacting their program. But also, there's this other piece where in the seat or at the table, you're having conversations about how all these things, one decision impacts everybody. And so there's
I'm very
some of that.
thankful that you're on the motion team and you're not. I loved you at Northern Kentucky too, but I know there's a lot of colleagues that miss you there. And walk us through the actual decision. Like, what was it like? So much of your identity has been tied up in college sports.
Yeah.
This is very different. What you're doing now, like, what battles were you having in your head? What were you most nervous about? What were you most excited about? What conversations were you not looking forward to? Kind of the behind the scenes there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the culture there was very much like you roll up your sleeves and you get into it and you work hard, and everyone, they all care about each other. We all cared about each other and the institution and what we can do and how do we help each other out. We knew we needed to find another model for another software platform to help us with efficiencies. And so in those conversations, as we were looking at like, okay, what does that mean exactly? And what can we afford? There's new tech come in. We can talk AI stuff. We can talk a variety of things, but in what ways can we be more efficient? So it frees up capacity to do other things. And so the conversations with Motion happened because I thought there was only one other product in the market. And then I went to other colleagues, and other colleagues said, you have to talk to Jay at Motion. You got to see this. I'm like, okay. So for me and my team, it was more so like realizing that there's a way for us to ease operationally, so that it frees up some capacity to do some other things. At the same time, financially speaking, it was incredibly important, right? That it frees up some financial capacity to do other things that we needed to do. So it kind of hit all of those things. Conversations with the team. Anytime you transition to something new or different or something being developed, right? There's all these questions, and we might not always know the answer, but it's been nice to have this iterative process where we're solving solutions. I mean, it's all of this it's what's made me incredibly excited about Motion, just because it's all about solution focused in order to alleviate
what is it?
Some other pressures.
You sat in on some of our meetings where our software engineers show like AI and how we use it. I'm curious I don't know how indoctrinated that is into the athletic department context. I've been in some athletic departments that use it heavily, some that don't. Like, I'm curious those first couple of meetings of seeing what that was like. Well, when you logged off, what were your thoughts?
Yeah. It's that emoji with the mind blown emoji. That's what it is. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty comfortable, I think, using some AI in terms of communication or um, asking prompts, asking a variety of things. But uh, to watch them actually work on a particular component of the platform, and I might be saying all these words incorrectly, but to watch them work on something, some bug, and then fix it in real time and see how it all of a sudden works, that's been incredible. To have clients tell us, this feature would be nice if we could do this, it would make life easier, and then to watch them develop it, that's pretty exciting. So I'm impressed every time I log in and I get a chance to watch their demos. I'm impressed with what they can do and what they can do
Which
with their
I'm
team of
impressed with
AI
too.
bots. Or
What
yeah,
I'm
it's pretty
curious,
impressive.
I know you mentor folks coming up through the athletic department ranks, and how has your advice kind of shifted over your career, Christine, of if someone was hunting the AD chair, young and hungry, what were you saying to them 10 years ago? Do you say the same thing to them now? Do you say it different? Does it depend on what their aspirations are by level? How do you kind of mentor folks through a wild world of college athletics now?
Yeah. I used to tell people, say yes to everything. Say yes to everything. Every door that opens, say yes, take it. The next project, somebody leaves their role and they need somebody to fill in and take that on, take it. I used to say yes to everything. It's hard to say yes to everything in our environment right now. And some things, it's okay to say no to. It's okay to say no if that opportunity is not the right one that aligns with your values, or it doesn't align with what you got going on in a different facet of your life. It's okay to say no. But I think because I was in that culture of just say yes to everything, I'm trying to move up the ladder and this is what I got to do in order to get there. It's not always that way. And there's a way to contribute in a variety of different capacities. I'm sitting in a different role now and still contributing to college athletics because it's what I love. But I think the way in which I mentor people now is really know what you value. Does it align with the role, the job that you're working in? Does it align with the institution that you're at? Does it align with, what you want your personal life to look like, or where geographically you are? But having those conversations about everything, because you can grow and you can contribute and you can be a leader at many different levels within an organization or at many different places. There is ways of being involved and contributing to this industry, and it doesn't
How
necessarily
do
only
you
have to
say
be
no?
one
Like if you've been a
direction.
yes till burnout or yes till I pass out in my desk and need to go take 3 days to sleep, how do you actually personally make that transition? And maybe you're not good at taking your own advice, Christina, because I know you do a lot too, but if you did do that shift, how did you actually operationalize that different way of thinking?
I had a couple of friends that would tell me when to say no. So by nature, I want to say yes, and by nature, I want to take it all on and somehow think that I can magically do it all. And I had some really close friends telling me, no, say no, or you don't need to do that. Or that's not something for you right now. Might be something for you later, but right now that's not for you. So just having a good group, my kitchen cabinet, you know, that group
All
of
right. So if you
individuals
don't
that
have
are
an
there to
accountability
help
group,
me make decisions.
you also need to go find new friends. That's another
Yeah.
piece of advice.
Yeah.
What about when you were getting started? Do you remember a particular
Yeah.
piece of advice that was good, and do you remember a particular piece of advice that you maybe wish you would have ignored?
The good piece of advice that I also gave people for a long time, because somebody told me this one, was be really good at your current job before you go looking for the next one. or before you take on more. And I thought that was incredible. I mean, if I don't do my current job very well, who's going to want to give me more? Or eventually I'm going to top out and somebody's going to see me for the fraud I am. So that was really good advice and sound advice. I think one thing that I didn't listen to, and I'm glad that I didn't listen to, is someone that told me that I needed to apologize for a lot of things. And I thought, you know what? I don't know that I necessarily need to apologize. I can be wrong. I can be wrong. I can admit to being wrong. We can have a conversation about why it's wrong or why a decision could have gone in a different direction. But an apology to me means that I didn't try, or I didn't care. And I care very deeply. So, if I hurt someone, absolutely, you're sorry for that. But in terms of some um, business decisions you make with the information you have at that time, and sometimes it's not great, but I can't apologize for making a decision with the best decision I could possibly make
How'd
with the
you have the
information.
wisdom to know not to take that advice? Is it just gut feeling?
Um, it was a gut feeling. It was a gut feeling, and I remember it pretty early on in my time at Fresno State, and it lingers. It lingers because I remember feeling very emotionally um, not in a great space. Like I just thought I'm doing my hardest here, and somebody's telling me that I need to apologize for that, and it didn't feel right. It just didn't sit right. So
Yeah.
um, I'm glad I listened to my
Listen
gut.
to your gut. It might be another piece.
Yeah.
What was you've got a couple awesome kids who know you as athletic director, senior athletic director, deputy director. What was, and I'm sure we've got folks on the call that have thought about career transition and how hard college athletics is. What was it like talking to some of your family and the kitchen cabinet warriors that maybe knew you as this? What were those conversations like when you knew you were going to transition?
Mm-hmm. Both my kids, well, now I became an empty nester in February. My daughter went off to college early. And so they both knew that something was going to happen quickly, that I was going to be looking for opportunities for mom to grow and continue to grow. And they've always known me as somebody that goes back and likes to learn new things and explore new things. So I think they always knew that mom was going to probably try something different. Not really sure what that was going to be, but they've been incredibly supportive. I think I'm just supportive of their big dreams and aspirations, and so they're just supportive. Like, whatever you do, mom, we're there. So whatever you do, we're going to be there. So it's been great. I think this has been exciting because when I share things with them, all of the tech side of it has been something that they're intrigued by, and something that we can understand. And it's not necessarily just about competition, but it's something in a different light. And so that's been pretty exciting to share that with them. And it's a different world for me, and they're enjoying that I get to
So
have my mind
tell us a
blown
little bit about, because
frequently.
you're also you help out with motion as a senior advisor, but you're also a role back in Title IX within Northern Iowa. So talk a little bit about like the actual logistics of the transition and how you thought through things.
Yeah. I received a call from the University of Northern Iowa President Mark Nook after I had already made my announcement that I was going to be stepping out. And he reached out and said, "We actually have a staff change here. Can you sit in on the position?" He asked me if I was interested in the full-time position, the permanent position. And I said, "Nope, not interested in the permanent position, but would be happy to come back and serve as the interim." And it's been a great role. There's there is that civil rights component of my career that started out at Fresno State within athletics and the SWA that took me under her wing and stuff. So there's always been that Title IX piece and civil rights component. And this just fit in perfectly. So it gave me the opportunity to come back to Northern Iowa, help out as that office is in transition and they look for a new full-time person for the role. And then, at the same time, I'm getting experience and working as a senior advisor with you all and
Do
joining the
you
team. And so
follow the
it's been a
D1
lot of
ticker
fun.
as religiously? Maybe you didn't follow it, but like your news consumption of college legislative change and other changes, like what was that like when you opened your eyes for the first day and you weren't the athletic director anymore?
For a little bit, for a couple of weeks there, I probably didn't look at it at all. Actually, I know for a fact I didn't because my email transitioned, right? And so I was no longer opening up an NKU email address. I was opening up two different addresses. And so in order to get it, I was going to have to actively subscribe to the D1
Did you
ticker,
get your
which then I
handshake with
eventually did.
withdrawals
But
from the
for a
content?
while there, it was nice to.
What
Oh,
I'm curious of the stuff
yep, a
that's
little
going on
bit.
now. Like what waves do you see coming that are just going to continue to pile on? I'm curious what resolution progress you see coming on different topics that you're like, man, thank goodness that's about to be buttoned up and at least we'll know what direction you're heading. Like which of these storylines do you follow the closest and are most maybe interested in because of your experience or what you went through at NKU? Like what on the news docket piques your interest?
Mhm. I think the things that just pique my interest are like the eligibility of the 5 for 5. You know, just do it. Just just do it. Just go for the 5 for 5. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be additional stuff, but the number of waivers that were out there, I mean, just go. Just do 5 for 5. In terms of rev share and caps, I mean, that always piques my interest. If certain institutions have the money for it, okay. Then there's many of us that do not. And so it's a different world and a different experience, but I sometimes take it from their lens, like, well, what would I want if I was sitting in their chair? So those things kind of pique my interest. The SCORE Act, we would love for some legislative support or some legislation to help settle things, but I don't see that necessarily happening right away. Maybe it eventually gets to something that gets passed. Those are the
Is
things
there
that kind of
something
pique
that's
my
not in
interest
the
just
news
when I
cycle that you
happen to
think,
open it.
oh man, like why haven't we fixed this yet? Or why don't we talk about
It's not necessarily that it's in the news cycle, nor do I think that it might be in the news cycle. But what I would love to see is more of these collaborations that are happening either statewide or region wide. I think it would be cool to see some institutions working together to find ways of getting resources for their institutions. Like I'm one that believes, something that if you can partner with other institutions in your state, what's good for scheduling purposes, like what's good for one institution is good for the entire state. So I would love to see more of that. I don't necessarily see that in the ticker, but
yeah,
just
go a little.
more so
We
about
went so
collaboration.
if folks haven't heard of it, there's this new event that happens in December. It's called the Playbook Summit, and it's kind of this intimate coming together of vendors and athletic directors to try to talk about solutioning. And Christine, I think that was one of the touch points where you couldn't shake me, and I didn't stalk you, but I knew you were going to be there. There were some cool ideas being shared there that I hadn't heard before, and I'm curious if there's anything in particular. It might not relate to these folks, but anything innovative that you took away from something like that, where you're like, I'm going to try it, or maybe it doesn't work for me, but I'm going to go tell folks about it. Anything in particular that stood out?
Well, what stood out to me one I think that stood out is we have so many common stories. So that's nice to be able to talk with people that have like challenges at their institutions. But when we're talking about some solutions, one institution was talking about working with other institutions in their state to ask legislators if they could take back the sport gambling tax and it go back to the institutions for athletics programs. And so I thought that, hey, that's a pretty creative, different way of thinking about it. Took that and asked in Kentucky, it's not something that we could do. I mean, that it's used for a variety of other reasons, pension and a variety of other things. But so that wasn't something that could be done in Kentucky. But I thought that's a way in which schools are coming together to say what's good for our institutions
so the athletic
in our
departments
state
were going
and
to
how
the state
can we
government
push them
to
together.
ask for some cut of college sports betting tax revenue that was going on within the state. Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I might email Indiana, see if they want to throw a motion in the tax revenue.
That was interesting. Yep. But if any of you if you get a phone call from Anthony Fasano or an email about the Playbook Summit, look at it. It is a real deal. It is great. It's all about solutions, right? And and that's absolutely where I found Jay.
Yeah, I do that.
Showed up at the same place I was going to be at.
last couple things, and then I want us to kind of work towards closing. What do you think about young people entering this industry right now, of someone looking for the pool at St. Mary's and accidentally wandering into the athletic department? Like, what other advice should we be giving young folks coming into college athletics at this level?
To do it. I mean, just to do it. Like I hope that we're not scaring away too many young individuals, right? By talking about the challenges that happen, or by them hearing about the various things that are happening and all. I hope that it actually excites them and they bring some energy to it. So for the young people interested in the industry, it's still a great industry, and we are still about educating students and giving students a great experience. That's still what it's all about, and it's fun, and it still gives you a tremendous number of stories to tell your fans, your friends and family. So definitely do it. There are a few young or actually, yeah, they would have graduated recently. So a few student athletes that just recently graduated, I'm happy to help review resumes, help look at cover letters, make some connection points. I'm willing to do all of that for them because I think it's an important industry, and we need young and new ideas, and
that's you, Christina.
People that know how to use AI.
So. I want to end on just a few questions for people to get to know you better. So you've lived West Coast, Northern Iowa, Northern Kentucky. If you got to move and take your family and your community with you tomorrow and go live in a new spot, where would you choose? Oh, we can't say that.
I don't know right now. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know right now. I'll tell you what I'm contemplating right now. What I'm contemplating right now is there's a couple possibilities. My next move could be moving to Indy, right? So there you go. I think it's a great underrated city. I think it's definitely underrated. I've also thought about Houston, Texas area. So my daughter's moving from New York to Los Angeles. I will not be moving to Los Angeles, but I do have family in California, so that's a possibility too. But right now it's kind of a toss-up between Indy and Houston.
For us. The smear campaign on Houston starts tomorrow. Last book you read, Christina?
Good question. I'm more of an audiobook person, and so I couldn't tell you necessarily the title of it, but it was Michael J. Fox's audio. His
favorite food
autobiography. Yeah.
We didn't.
Lately it's been vegetarian tacos. So I'm not eating too much meat anymore and have gone more vegetarian. So
That
tofu
sounds awesome.
and veggies in a taco.
Kind. That's and then Christina, tell us the next event where if folks want to reach out and just get in touch and talk more about personal stuff, career stuff, motion stuff, athletic department mentorship, like what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yep, I'll be at NACTA, so you can always reach out to me through Motion, my email address. But also, I'll be at NACTA on June 6th through the 9th, I think. So 4 days there.
All right. I will
Happy to
send
connect with
everyone's,
anybody.
I'll send Christina's email out to everyone when we wrap up so folks can connect with Christina or myself and hang out. But Christina and I are debating doing more webinars down the road with maybe some different content topics of just things that normally don't get addressed or we get to hear about outside of new compliance or legislation rules that we think people might find interesting. So if anyone's got good topics or good ideas, somebody engaged for an interesting kind of interview. Can you still hear me, Christina? Okay. Let me know. Shoot me a
Yep,
note.
we
Just
got you.
follow up in what I send to you guys after with the video. But we like doing this and being informal. And Christina, thanks for being so open with everything. And Motion team's blessed to work with you. But the journey, if we can tell more about what that looked like and people can relate to that and feel comfortable reaching out, I think that's the biggest benefit of this. So thanks for telling your story and being vulnerable.
Yep. Thanks, Jay. And thank you all for joining us today. So I do see I wasn't tracking on chat, the chat feature here,
Logan
but I
said
do
Indy
see a
is the
few of them.
move.
So I'll be reaching back out.
Thank you, Logan. Appreciate it. Hope
Is
everyone has an
the
awesome
move.
Tuesday. Shoot us a note if you guys need anything. But thanks again for making time. Appreciate you guys.